Porsche says they're about emotion, about heritage, about building the world's best drivers' cars. But here's the truth. Over the next 5 years, almost every decision Porsche makes, every new model, every powertrain, won't be about you, the driver. It'll be about them, about the EU, about compliance, and about survival. And today I'm going to show you exactly why Porsche may be losing the plot and what we'll see over the next 5 years. No, Porsche hasn't discontinued the GT3 yet. But if you think the GT3 or any enthusiast Porsche is safe in the next 5 years, you need to see what's happening behind the scenes, because even Porsche's CEO is saying the quiet part out loud. Our business model no longer works. This isn't strategy anymore, it's survival. And in the past few days, we've seen them flip-flopping over electrification after the 4th profit warning of the year. Let's start with the narrative Porsche is selling. Value over volume. That sounds confident, premium, strategic. But is it? Or is it spin? Because when you look at what's actually happening in the numbers, it's clear this isn't just a curated strategy. It's a reaction to problems they didn't control. In the first half of 2025, Porsche's global sales dropped 6% year over year. They delivered about 146,000 vehicles globally, but the geography matters here. In North America, sales were actually up 10%, but in China they were down nearly 30%. In Germany, down 23%. In the rest of Europe, down 8%. Model-wise, the Macan dropped globally, even though the EV version is growing. The Taycan has cratered, sales are down 49% year over year. Even the 911, Porsche's crown jewel, dropped 9% in the first half of 2025. So while some models, like the Cayenne, are holding up, the overall picture is shaky. And here's the irony, the US and UK are still buying Porsches in meaningful numbers, but they're not driving Porsche's direction. That future is being written somewhere else entirely. Let's be brutally honest, Porsche's 5-year roadmap from hybrids to EVs to limited run nostalgia plays isn't being shaped in Stuttgart or Silicon Valley. It's being shaped in Brussels. Starting in 2035, the European Union bans the sale of all new ICE cars. That includes plug-in hybrids. That includes everything. And long before that deadline, Porsche has to meet fleet-wide emissions targets or face crushing fines. Now, to be fair, even within the EU, this strategy isn't as airtight as it looks. Germany, yes Germany, actually held up the EU's 2035 ICE ban at the 11th hour. Why? Because Porsche, Audi, BMW, Mercedes pushed back. The result? A vague carve-out for e-fuels. The EU says ICE cars that run on carbon-neutral fuels might be allowed. It's not finalised. There's no plan. But the crack in the facade is there. So while Porsche is publicly all in on EVs, behind the scenes they're hedging with synthetic fuels, lobbying in Brussels and trying to keep the combustion door slightly ajar. So what do? They pivot. Macan EV, not because it's faster or more thrilling, but because it brings down fleet emissions. 911 GTS hybrid, again, not because customers asked for it, but because regulations demanded it. A full electric 718 Cayman and Boxster, likely by 2026, even though the UK and US would happily keep buying petrol versions. Here's the rub. The US and UK are still loyal customers. Americans bought more Porsches this year than last. The UK has one of the highest per capita Porsche ownership rates in the world. But those customers, they're passengers now. Porsche isn't designing for them. It's designing for emissions mathematics. Now here's the kicker. Even as Porsche accelerates this EV transition, global EV demand is softening. In the US, electric cars are piling up on dealer lots. In Europe, incentives are being pulled back. And in China, Porsche's largest market, it's being brutally undercut by local EV brands that are faster and cheaper and more advanced. So why keep pushing? Because Porsche doesn't have a choice. They need EVs to exist, even if buyers don't want them. so they can keep selling the cars that people do want. The Taycan is a perfect example, a technical showpiece, but an economic sinkhole. Sales are down nearly 50%, margins are slim, and production costs are eye-watering. And yet Porsche refreshed it in 2025 just to keep it in the fleet for compliance reasons. That's not innovation, that's obligation. At the same time, Porsche is doubling down on heritage and nostalgia. And honestly, can you blame them? We've had the 911 Dakar, the 911 Sport Classic, endless paint-to-sample builds, and soon probably a 911 with fake Fuchs wheels and an electrified classic badge. These are margin machines. They don't need to be revolutionary, they just need to be limited, Instagrammable, and the last of the breed. But let's not confuse that for passion. This isn't about keeping the flame alive, it's about cashing in before regulators snuff it out. But then, just this month, in September 2025, quite unexpectedly, Porsche's CEO confirmed ICE options will remain alongside EVs after the fourth profit warning of the year. That's huge. It shows Porsche is listening to the market, at least a little, and maybe, just maybe, the EU is too. After years of EV-only messaging, this is a strategic shift, and it comes as the EU's regulatory power is being challenged. Germany delayed the ICE ban in 2023. Lobbying for synthetic fuels is growing. Other manufacturers are pulling back on EV-only plans. Could this be the start of a broader Porsche pivot? Maybe. Are they hedging their bets? Definitely. Here's the real Porsche roadmap, not the PR version. By 2026, the 911 Turbo and Turbo S go hybrid. The Macan EV replaces the gas version entirely by 2027. The Cayenne EV lands around the same time, as does the new 3-row K1 super SUV, which could include ICEs. The Boxster and Cayman go fully electric with a few high-end ICE versions. The Taycan gets repositioned or quietly retired before 2030. But here's another twist. The Panamera was refreshed again in 2025 as an ICE car with hybrid variants. That's right, amidst all the noise about electrification, Porsche quietly rolled out a new version of the gasoline-powered sedan. Why? Because in key markets like the US, UK and parts of Asia, EV infrastructure still isn't ready. And because they know buyers of a luxury Grand Tourer still want long range, quick refuelling and a familiar driving experience. The Panamera proves one thing: Porsche doesn't believe EVs are the full answer, at least not yet. They're hedging, and that tells you everything you need to know about how shaky this transition really is. Porsche isn't stupid, they're one of the best run car makers in the world. But what we're seeing now isn't strategy, it's compliance dressed as innovation. And the risk? That in 5 years' time, the people who cared most about the brand, the US buyers and the UK enthusiasts, the legacy loyalists, look up and realise the cars Porsche is building aren't for them anymore. And if that's the case, then yeah, maybe Porsche is losing the plot. Could that e-fuel loophole grow wider? Could Germany, under pressure from its car industry, force the EU to backpedal or delay the 2035 deadline? Honestly, it's possible, because if Porsche can't sell ICE cars in Europe, but demand stays strong in the US, UK and Asia, then the strategy doesn't add up, and Porsche knows that. That's why they're still investing in ICE development, still pouring money into e-fuels, still building Panameras with V6s and V8s, and rolling back EV strategy. This story isn't over, and maybe, just maybe, Porsche hasn't lost the plot. Maybe they're waiting for Brussels to realise it wrote the wrong ending. If you're a potential customer though, it really is a job to know what to believe, isn't it? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Drop your thoughts in the comments, especially if you're in the US or UK and feel like Porsche is no longer building the cars for you. I hope you enjoyed this verbal essay this week. Hit subscribe and I'll see you in the next one.